Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are stepping right into the shoes of a senior Sitecore architect to lay out the absolute ultimate playbook for AI-assisted development. Look, we all know the landscape is changing, right? So we're going to show you exactly how to structure your prompts and workflows to instruct your AI to build scalable, headless Sitecore solutions, and to do it efficiently, accurately, and above all, securely. We'll be breaking down those massive, complex requirements into a strict, actionable workflow that ensures your AI assistant generates actual production-ready code, while totally sidestepping those common pitfalls we've all run into. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the complete development lifecycle. We'll hit 1. Architecting your Sitecore foundation. 2. Modern implementation and headless. 3. Security and quality review. 4. Testing your Sitecore solutions. And finally, 5. Deployment, DevOps, and serialization. Starting right at the beginning with Section 1, architecting your Sitecore foundation, because every scalable solution absolutely has to begin with a rigorous blueprint. Before you even type a single word of your prompt, Anciency highlights a critical rule. You've got to map everything out first. This perfectly aligns with the requirement analysis and solution design phases of our AI workflow. You need to define your rendering strategy and template structure right up front. So instead of getting super granular and telling your AI to create a dozen tiny disconnected modules, instruct it to think about the form of the content. Focus heavily on reusability. It's like a giant puzzle. Maybe a testimonial module can totally double as a blog quote if you structure it right. Now, no architectural design is complete without talking about Helix architecture. These are Sitecore's official best practices, and honestly, they're non-negotiable. If you want your AI tools to generate code that you can actually maintain, you must explicitly instruct your assistant to follow Helix rules, because if you ignore them, well, you're basically guaranteeing instant technical debt the literal second that code is generated. Helix demands that we organize our code into 3 very strict layers. You've got your foundation for core frameworks, feature for concrete business logic, and project for the final site context. Instructing your AI to automatically map every single new implementation into these specific layers keeps your codebase beautifully modular. And trust me, it makes it infinitely easier to troubleshoot as your project scales up. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive paradigm shift we are navigating right now. We are moving way away from legacy Sitecore, where in-page editing was super tightly coupled to delivery servers. Today with XM Cloud, we are working with a fully decoupled architecture. We're pairing Sitecore pages with a completely external rendering host. Honestly, this changes absolutely everything about how we design our solutions. Which brings us to Section 2, Modern Implementation and Headless. Let's get into the actual build phase. So XM Cloud relies on 4 very distinct layers. First, your content management is fully managed over on Azure. Then, that content is pushed to Experience Edge, which is this blazing fast read-only GraphQL API hosted on Fastly CDN. Meanwhile, your front end lives on a totally separate rendering host like Next.js, and it's all tied together with XM Cloud Deploy for your CI/CD pipelines. The takeaway here, content management is now 100% decoupled from content delivery. Let's walk through the exact flow when a user requests a page. First, Next.js's dynamic routing immediately resolves the URL and fires off a GraphQL layout service request straight to Experience Edge. Next, it grabs that JSON response, hydrates the components using the component builder, and finally, renders the page using server-side rendering or static site generation. This decoupled flow is exactly what unlocks that incredible, lightning-fast speed we're all after. To build all of this efficiently, Sitecore gives us some seriously powerful developer SDKs. But the real revolution here is the AI integration. You can use the Agent SDK to build workflows that actually respond to user intent, or use the Marketplace MCP to connect directly with assistants like Claude. You can literally prompt your AI to launch a new landing page, and it will orchestrate the entire Next.js component setup and the Sitecore content right there for you. It's a real game changer. Moving right along to Section 3, Security and Quality Review, because Headless has to be secure by design. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the question it poses. Is your ASP.NET Core API actually secure against modern threats? We all kind of fall into the trap of assuming modern frameworks make us inherently safe. But in an AI development workflow, a mandatory step is demanding that your tools perform a super strict quality review for unvalidated inputs and exposed APIs, because speed absolutely cannot come at the cost of security. You need to lay out explicit mitigation strategies for ASP.NET Core. Demand the use of anti-forgery tokens for CSRF, enforce parameterized queries via Entity Framework to block SQL injection dead in its tracks, and strictly secure your cookies with HTTP only and same-site flags. If you're building prompts, your absolute golden rule has to be never, ever generate insecure code. A foundational pillar of this whole security mindset is applying the principle of least privilege to your database accounts. It doesn't matter if it's a human developer or an automated pipeline interacting with your DB, access must be strictly limited to exactly what is necessary, period. Nothing more. Section 4. Testing your Sitecore solutions. Let's see how we can streamline our unit testing. So, the crucial point here is that when you're formulating the testing strategy step of your AI prompt, precision is everything. Historically, setting up manual fakes for Sitecore items was just so tedious. Massive blocks of setup code just to mock one little database item. But by leveraging auto-fixture and end-substitute, specifically using the auto-Sitecore data attribute, your tests can dynamically generate dummy content and databases right on the fly. Instructing your AI to use this exact pattern keeps your unit tests incredibly clean and lightning fast. And finally, Section 5, Deployment, DevOps, and Serialization. Time to deploy this flawless architecture. Whenever you're dealing with multi-site enterprise solutions, Sitecore content serialization is absolutely essential. As part of your deployment guidance, remember that the best practice for execution order uses numbered configuration files. You want to sync your global shared items first, followed by your shared site collections, and then finally your site-specific modules. This clean division is what saves you from those absolute dependency nightmares during automated deployments. Okay, look, here is a vital configuration tip you definitely need in your toolkit. You have to configure the excluded fields collection in your sitecore.json file. If you skip this step, every single sync is going to pull a massive list of false changes, just because some internal Sitecore metadata updated. Ignoring pure metadata changes saves your Git repository from absolute madness, for sure. You also really need to wrap your head around information as resources, or IAR. In XM Cloud, deployed items live right on the file system. But, and here's the catch, if an author edits an item in the CMS, Sitecore creates a database override. The danger here is that when you go to deploy new code, that database override might completely mask your new changes if you aren't managing it carefully across all your environments. When it comes to your rendering host, your infrastructure choices really do matter. While the CMS itself lives comfortably on Azure, Sitecore strongly recommends Vercel or Netlify for deploying your Next.js head. They just provide the most complete feature support out of the box, allowing you to easily bypass some of the known limitations you might hit with Azure static web apps. Let's move to and see how this builds into configuring the Sitecore CLI for CI/CD automation. Because if you want to fully automate this pipeline, browser-based logins just won't cut it. You have to configure a non-interactive client login using a client ID and secret. This is what allows your DevOps tooling like GitHub Actions to provision environments and push serialized content entirely hands-free. For even deeper automation, I love this reminder from Alistair Denays. There is nothing you cannot do with PowerShell Console. It is the ultimate developer accelerator. From doing bulk content updates to running automated cleanup tasks, directly instructing your AI to generate Sitecore PowerShell extension scripts is just a massive efficiency optimization for any architect out there. So we've covered the modern playbook, but I want to leave you with this ultimate question. As AI agents become more and more capable of generating component code and orchestrating complete pipelines just from a text prompt, the whole landscape is shifting, right? Your role is evolving from just writing the code yourself to securely orchestrating these intelligent systems and planning for future enhancements. So what will your role as a Sitecore architect look like tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining this explainer. Now go out there and build the future.